For me, every day it's a wonderful day. Every bright new day, whatever it may have for you, whatever may have happened overnight, for me it's always a miracle. A miracle because we are alive. And then we're also healthy because a lot of people are not. Then it beats me to think that a lot of us who receive this miracle of life still go out there to commit crime. Last week we started a story. Last week we started a discussion. Last week we opened up a topic, rape. We intend to continue with that topic. And for me, it is not just a crime. It is everything wrong. Call it sin, call it crime, call it violation, whatever it is completely wrong. Maybe I could be wrong. Our phone lines will be open. You and I are going to have this discussion together, and we still have someone in the house with me. Later on the show, we'll be having a psychiatrist, Dr. Shaibu. She'll be joining us to look at the, mental capacity, mental balance of the raper or the rapist and the victim. But then we have a social analyst here with me in the person of, what's your name?
Kevin Fineface.
All right. All right, Kevin is quite a regular in the house. We'll take a break now, and when we come back, the show will continue. And this particular break, for me, it's something that trended for a while within this week. We tried to put it together, the newspaper headlines on rape. Let's see it. Well, Kevin, I wish we had a camera right in the master control room and we're able to bring out the responses just as they came naturally. A lot of people are in there are calling for justice, and that's the same thing. They actually represent generality of Nigerians. I don't know, but I've always wondered, you have two lovely children. One of them is a girl. How would you feel? How would you feel? I don't know. I don't know how to put the question, but what happens if that is her portion at a point in life?
Well, first, let me sound like a typical Nigerian. That's not
It's not my portion.
My portion, kind of, and not my daughter's portion. But you see, these things are real. Having been a victim myself, being raped at 9 and 11.
You were raped at
yes,
9?
And 11.
No, hang on. You were raped at 9?
Sexually
as a boy?
Abused, as a boy.
What happened?
A mother was like, in the neighborhood.
Your mother?
No, by a mother in the neighborhood.
Oh, another mother, okay.
In the neighborhood. Now, at that particular time, it's also because of lack of sex education within the family. When kids are not taught what they need to know, when they need to know those things, they can be easily abused. The question I asked, if anything happens of such, my little girl now, which is like 13, I think it would be more like an aggravated murder, because the next thing I would do is to kill that person or castrate that individual. Am I taking laws into my hands? You see, the degree of the offense, right? Because when you rape someone, you kind of take that person's life entirely. the victim never recovers except, of course, by divine influence. It took me my adulthood to realize that I was actually really being abused. It affected my psychology growing up, the way I related with the opposite sex. If I wasn't exposed to some kind of truth and acceptance, probably I would have been one of the, abuser right now on the streets.
Yes.
So it's actually beat my imagination. I had actually suggested before now, one of the ways we can actually start stemming this is first, educating our kids, not just the girl child alone.
No, you were a man. At that point, you were a boy, and it happened to you. But I'm wondering, at that 9, it's still almost unthinkable. Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, did you know, how was it like for you? Was it like frequently done? What happened?
At first, it was like a thing of pride.
For you?
For me.
Oh my God.
Being out, giving such access to such a woman. First it started with like, come and cream my body. So, you're called and you're like feeling excited, like, she caused me to come and cream my body, so you kind of do it. And suddenly you start trying out with your peers. You do mama and papa, like we say. I start trying out with your peers. Because you see these things, you don't really know the dangers or what you're actually doing, because you don't have the information. Then gradually you now start seeing that suddenly you don't want to see your peers as people that you can actually relate with, because you've actually had something to do with someone far older than you are.
Oh no.
So you don't want to get into any relationship with someone that is within your age bracket, because they look like little kids. If you already have access to someone much older than you are. And I didn't know what I was doing, frankly.
Oh no, obviously you were 9.
In fact, I was once, I ran out naked from the room. I was actually going to ejaculate. I didn't know it was ejaculation because I was actually a little boy. So I ran out. It's crazy. And it became something else. So the whole experience is not something that one has to relive. No, it's sad. And so when you ask that question, I'm like thinking, see, I suggested something before now. When we get a rapist, the best thing to do is to put needle in fire and pierce that needle in the urethra of the individual.
Oh no.
No, it sounds crazy, right? Don't kill immediately. Let the pain continue. Then we educate the people and arm them. Arm everybody. Little boy, boys are majorly also molested. Even correct, last 2 weeks or so, there was a news in social media of a 24-year-old lady who molested madam's son or so, and it was everywhere. These things happen. But the female girls are widely raped.
Yes.
Now, for certain reasons, in some part in the north, especially, girls are actually raped under the guise of religion. Because, you get 11, 9, 11, 12, 13-year-old girls, and you put them under, family way, that's rape.
That's rape. Okay, another one, I wanted to still pry a little bit into your private space without your, minding. At what point in life did you begin to resent based on your understanding of the fact that you were being raped? And what psychological, I don't want to say torture, what was your psychological state like when you found out, oh, this is what has been happening to me, and how did you manage it?
I think it happened sometime around 2002, 2003. Well, some friends were just gisting at Transcorp, and the lady said something connecting to it, that boys who were exposed to this, who were abused at tender age, these are the things that happen to them. And I had a flashback. It just dawned on me that, wait a minute, I've been through all of this. I made mention of the fact that I didn't really want to go out with my peers any longer, because, what do you want to do with people at your age? You see them as nothing. You don't value the virtue of the woman with any longer, because you can have this thing easily. Then I started being resentful towards the opposite sex, because I see every woman like the same experience. They are like that. You know, there's that generalization of things once you have an experience. And when I now realize it, I hated that experience. Because I remember at some point, I said I was going to deal with all women that comes my way. Yeah, I said so. And I started acting in that manner. Like I said, there was no value. So, but when I got to this realization, then I also been committed in church. My faith level had increased with my relationship with God. So I kind of realized that, oh, what I've been through doesn't necessarily define me. That is in my place to decide what I can be.
Who you want to be.
Who I want to be.
Okay.
So I started defining myself in whose I am, which is in God, through Christ. So in that definition, my whole essence started changing. And I started saying, oh, God made me in his own image and according to his likeness. So invariably, I'm a God.
Definitely.
Not just with the capital letter, not with the small letter G, but with the capital letter G. So I need to begin to act in benevolence. So there's that deliberate, conscious effort to be benevolent towards the opposite sex and every other human being. So that was what really helped. That encounter changed the entire, spectrum of my life. And I started seeing, oh, women are actually the most powerful beings. They are more valuable. They need to be treated so nice. They need to be served. A woman is actually designed to be served and not to be treated in that manner.
Say that again.
A woman is designed to be served.
Thank you.
But unfortunately, the culture and the kind of environment we're from does not really, educate us on that. We see women as tools, as objects, and also because the women also easily come to that consciousness of who they truly are. Abuse is inevitable because once the importance of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable. And so we started saying that. Just recently, I just finished a short film on the issue of rape, consent or no consent. Now, there's a thinking that says that because of the way the women dress, that's why they've been raped. No, there's a fundamental problem. There's a mental disorder with people who look at dresses. And I make reference to the fact that in Lesotho, in the southern Africa, in Africa, we still see people going completely naked or half naked. In Nigeria, Koma Hills, they don't wear clothes until recently. So what happens if someone is walking naked as a culture, as a traditional requirement? Does it mean that they will all be raped? Because nobody goes to rape those girls in Lesotho. Nobody in Zululand.
Thank you.
They go around in their and there's no reaction.
I've actually seen that.
So
and you don't get to feel anything.
You don't get to feel anything because there's a mental disorder in this part of our culture. And so they say, oh, because of the way she dressed, that was why. I mean, we've seen little girls, toddlers being raped. Was it because of the dressing? No. So, because of the odd time. That is a mental problem. So we need to address the mental issue in order to address this. And so if we also begin to create punitive measures and let people know about it, there's another downside to it anyway. Because if people know that if they are caught, they will be killed or some kind of hard punishment will be given to them, they will want to erase trace. That's why in India, they rape and kill because of the punishments. So we can actually sit down and begin to teach our boys and our girls. First, teach our boys the value of womanhood, how to respect women. I have a little boy, he just turned 12 yesterday. He has an elder sister that he must respect.
Definitely.
He must serve. I used to tell him, look, you have to learn to serve your elder sister.
You know, Kevin, I'm going to ask you a question on your psychological state, but I also know that Dr. Shaibu, good morning, you can come in. Doctor is just joining us, Dr. Shaibu, and she's a psychiatrist, and she's going to be listening to you, after which she will be, nice to have you. In the past, we used to shake hands. Now,
Yeah, we don't.
all right, Doctor is talking about rape, and at the end of the day, he's been telling us a story, but I want him to tell me, it's his personal story, really, and his real life. Kevin, I need to know, for you, you told us about your psychological state as at the time you were at it, as at the time you realized the error, and I need to know how you were able to cope with your peer group, because I'm sure some of them knew, and how you were able to manage with your parents as well. Did they even know about it? Did you report it?
Well, when the abuse started, it wasn't something that you have to report to your parents, like I said.
Because you were enjoying it, right?
Because you would say enjoying it because if
innocently so.
Innocently so.
Yeah.
Two, there was no sex education to let you understand these are the boundaries that you must set. It was in an environment where everything is allowed. It was a community that allowed some level of immorality to take place within that environment. Now, we human beings are oftentimes we're like nurture and nature. The kind of environment you grow up from have a way to affect the kind of things that happen to you. Then there's a natural being in you that oftentimes supersedes everything that happens around your environment. That's why people are not necessarily defined for where they are from. It's who they are that really defines them. Now, when my experience started, my parents got to find out when something drastic really happened. They didn't even know. I couldn't even tell them. Would they even believe me? That's another aspect. Do I necessarily have access to my father that he would believe? In fact, if we say, oh, you're doing this to this person, if probably my father is alive, she allowed you to do this thing, he might likely try it, right? I'm not trying to bring him down. So they don't know. My mother was always very busy. Always in the market and all of those things. No time to even discuss that. There was no child-parent relationship for such kind of discussion. And so, looking back now, I blame them on one side for not protecting me the way I was and got into that kind of experience. But it's also my responsibility. So my peers, those who later found out, were actually ailing me.
Oh, they thought you were the big boy.
Yeah, man, you mean you could do this, kind of. Then some were kind of wanted to shame me for it, look at you that. Because a lot of folks don't even understand what was actually happening. We didn't know what was the psychological effect of what the experience would do. Nobody knew about it. Like I said, it wasn't for that peer group at my adulthood that I got to realize that. Imagine this thing happened about 15 years after I got to realize that, man, this was a mess up. Because I started going back, more like a reel of my life experience, relationship. And oh, man, that was the reason why I was behaving this manner. Because if at 9 you were exposed to raw sex, at 9, it wasn't that maybe you do this mama and papa thing and there was no penetration. It was raw sex. It was crazy. At 11, it continued. So I was already been exposed to sex at a very tender age. So it was like I need more of it.
Oh, no.
So there was no stable relationship. None. Now the only one I got into that was kind of stable turned out to be something else. So everything was falling apart. So, okay, I'm going to deal with every girl that comes my way. That thought was on for 4-5 years until there was a change. Self-realization.
Okay.
And so, you said she's here, I'm sure she's going to be profiling again. I've gone through a lot of profiling to get myself out of it. So now I do what I do with my kids is to arm them so that they understand. So if you touch my girl with an intention, she will know that you touched her with an intention. All right,
I'm going to go back to that parenting, and you sure have a way of handling that. But I want to move to Dr. Shaibu. Thank you for making our time. I know your time is so short. You worked all night and all that. I still had to drag you out this morning. Thank you very much. But I want you to speak on the issue of the psychological state of the victim. He's been able to, reenact his own experience. He was raped at 9, and he followed him till a pretty old age, much of his adulthood. And even though he's not told the story, I know he did worse than he's telling us as a result.
No, you can't say.
He probably may not have shared all that with us.
You can't say.
Okay. So, Doc, I would like to know, you have been able to counsel victims of rape. What goes on in their minds?
Okay, first of all, I would like to, lay the preamble, right? Rape goes beyond the actual sexual act, right? It's the feeling of powerlessness that's coming from the victim's perspective. Because the perpetrator actually has the disinhibition, first of all. So it's an act of control, like having control over this person, whether this person wants it or not. I'm going to do it, right? Because it's not all rape victims, it's not all rape cases that actually, due to penetration with the sexual organs. Sometimes it's an object, sometimes it's the finger, right? So it's that act of dominating your victim. So first of all, this victim might be a first time, it might be a first time experience for the person. For some, they're married people.
When you say first time, it's like virgin.
Yes. Okay. So you can imagine the first sexual experience they have is
rape.
So that is what they understand as a sexual experience.
Yeah.
So imagine the perception they have of sex. That is one. For those that have experienced it before, it still dehumanizes them because it makes them feel like I'm an object of use. You know. So first of all, when rape happens, we're all about, oh, let's go to the hospital. We're worried about, oh, does she have hepatitis? Oh, does she have HIV? Does she have this? You know, I hope there is no tear and all that. All that is tidied up. Mm-hmm. She runs the battery of tests. Oh, she's fine physically. Those things, those physical conditions heal very fast. But you see the mental state of that human being.
It's difficult.
It persists. Because for every time she needs to have a sexual act, she gets flashbacks, you know. And then for some, they might never get married.
They may never get married.
You may never
know why they are not marrying.
Yes, because they attribute every man, or if it's a male, every woman, to that victim. So they may go ahead to develop what we call the PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, because they're hypervigilant. You know, for every time someone is walking, depending on the circumstances. If it's someone that barged into their room, for any time someone slams the door, you know, they find themselves jumping. If it was on the road, they're hypervigilant, like looking around. Is this person a potential, you know, perpetrator?
In fact, everybody is a suspect.
Do you understand? So their whole life is about being alert, being, you know, trying to protect themselves. So they live life, they just exist, they don't live. And these are the things we need to consider. It's beyond rape cases. Up to, you know, I came across part of the statistics, we have over 90% of cases that are not reported. We just hear, how many cases did we hear that is making the whole world go, you know, go gaga? For those 3 cases that went public, there are hundreds more that have been buried. And just like he said, why will I not report it? Because I'm afraid of being guilt-tripped or shamed. What did you do? What were you doing that it happened? Why was it you that they chose as the victim? Why not? Do you understand? So I think our mindset needs to shift from why did it happen to you to why did the person do it? It's not every man that is a rapist.
Now, speaking of why was it you, to moving from there to why did the person do it, I want to know, some people in the past will say, I have done this to a girl, I've done this to a boy, you know, and I want to get out of it. Yeah. I want to know, is there any compartment in the brain that malfunctions to make a man or a woman want to use violence to have sex?
Okay, yeah, there are different things. You see, we have different personality disorders. We have people, so unless you're able to do a personality assessment, you know, and maybe interact with the person, you're able to now, just like you said, profiling, but I don't like using the word profiling. You're able to say, this is his personality, and everyone has a personality. Mm-hmm. It becomes a disorder if it affects your function. Do you understand? So if someone is a psychopath, for instance, he just wants to see people go through pain. And there's a category of disorders called sexual disorders.
Sexual disorders?
Yes. And so there are people that only enjoy sex.
Saddos.
There are people that only enjoy sex if... Oh my goodness, I'm allowed. People that enjoy sex...
All right, we'll just continue with that, yes. But let's quickly take a break. Don't forget, our topic is rape. And when we come back, we'll be discussing even more. For now, let's look at incidences of rape as put together by Funke.
If you ever wonder what story could be compelling enough to knock off a global pandemic health crisis off the front page of every major media outlet in the country, it is the rising case of rape and sexual assault. Over the past 2 months, Nigerians have woken up to different shocking, tragic, and violent real stories of rape against vulnerable persons. Of the recent and touching is the Uwavera Omozua, a 22-year-old student of Uniben who was raped and brutally murdered when she was at her church studying. Also, a teenager Barakat Bello, a student of Department of Science Laboratory Technology, was found in a home, raped and killed. In Lagos State, 4 masked men gained entry into the home of a 12-year-old girl where she was ganged raped. This recent escalating trend of rape and sexual assault has sparked nationwide outrage, which has led to street protests led by the civil society and human rights organizations in Nigeria, calling for stiffer punishment and its implementation.
We are tired of the incessant cases of women being raped in their own houses, in their own churches.
When a person gets raped, the family wants justice. When a child is raped, this is a crime against the state, not against her family. And so even when parents are pressured to withdraw cases, the state must say, no, this is a minor, this is a 2-year-old. The state should take up the case. This is why we're here.
According to the National Bureau of Statistics data report in 2018, received from the Nigerian Police Force and the Ministry of Justice, rape cases have been on the rise. The percentage of rape incidents of girls was 63.04% in 2015, 72.13% in 2016, and 69.33% in 2017. These figures are high, and with the current trend of rape and sexual assault case has prompted Nigerians to ask big questions such as, why does our legal system make it hard to convict suspected rapists? Why does our society blame women when they are victims of sexual assault? How can the medical science be used legally as evidence in sexual assault cases? These questions have evoked responses at the Senate level, where the current bill to prohibit the stigmatization of victims of rape and insurgency, which has passed the second reading in the Senate. The objective of the bill is to provide the legal and institutional framework for the protocol for reintegration of victims of rape and insurgency in the country. Victims of sexual assault in Nigeria most of the time never report to the police as they fear stigmatization and would rather live with the trauma and battle emotional problem in silence with the feelings of unworthiness.
There is value in each and every one of us, including you. That is precious even on the days you might not feel it. You never depreciate in value.
The nation has bound together to bring the spotlight to the menace of rape and how it is eaten deep like a cancer into the lives of victims of sexual assault and their families. This is the beginning of hope and true healings needed for the victims.
Stand by me, oh stand now, stand by me.
All right, indeed, there is value in every woman, and Mr. Kevin said it all. Women are designed to be pampered. Women are designed to be served. And if you want the best out of a woman, show her lots of love. And maybe show her a little love and she gives you the rest. Trust me, your life will be sweeter than you ever met it. Now, Dr. Shaibu, I hope I'm speaking your mind. Not because you're a woman.
That's right. They're naturally created to give, to nurture.
You know, yes. If you show a woman a little love,
that's right.
She takes
She'll
that
multiply
little 1 naira love, multiply it,
that's right,
and bath you with love. That's
right.
the truth.
That's right.
But then you were talking to us before our break on the mental state of a rapist.
Oh, yes. So, like I was talking about the different sexual disorders, because we need to understand why these people do it. Some do it to seek revenge. For instance, it's not all rapists that murder their victims, right? So you need to understand, is that person a psychopath? Is that person trying to harm that person? There are people that only get aroused by sexual violence. And that is the personality disorder they have. There are people.
So when you say that before they have regular,
So they don't get turned on if the victim is submissive or if the victim consents. There's no arousal. It doesn't turn them on. So they only get turned on if they apply violence, if they know that I'm using force. So that's their own disorder. There are people that only get attracted to animals.
Can this thing come from maybe a family background? I mean, where you grew up seeing your parents always in combat, in conflict, can it also affect the child?
So you see, for mental health cases, we always talk about the biopsychosocial model. So there's the biological component of causation, there's the psychological, and there's the social. So biological means genetic. So if a family member has that, it increases your chances of developing that. Psychological, things that have affected you as a child. So if you have been a victim of sexual violence, it increases your chances being a perpetrator, in later life. And then social environment. So you grew up in an abusive home, there's no parental nurturing, parents are apart, so you're just allowed to learn from the street. So you pick, so that's the nature versus nurture. So nature is more of the biological, nurture is our environment. So there are different disorders. Some people get attracted only to corpses. You have people that go to
corpse, as in dead body.
Yes. Yeah. Necrophilia, that's what it's called. So there are people that, there are actually forensic psychiatric cases that you find out that they say, they found this person in the mortuary having sexual intercourse with the corpses. Yeah, so there's a lot of disorders.
Some actually do.
So I think, what we should focus on is, rather than we understand that we need to teach our children and the younger ones, learn to be alert, learn to do this and that, we should learn to also caution them that if anyone says no, then it is no, respect people's boundaries, because they grow up with it. So it's not enough to be defensive. You don't want to live your whole life in defense. What about a world where we respect people's boundaries? So if I say, you know what, you can't call me at 9 o'clock, why do we respect that? But if you touch me and I say you can't touch me, why do we make it a case? If you say hello and I say I don't shake, respect that. That is me. Do you understand? So I think we need to judge less, because the society is very judgmental. Something has happened to someone and all you're thinking about is, what was she doing when that happened?
Exactly.
How often do we judge people?
Where was she going to?
Thank you. So how often do we judge people who sustain a road traffic accident because they're on their phone? If they're in the accident and emergency with a broken limb and bleeding, we show sympathy. Oh my goodness, the whole family is crying. The whole extended family is like, hey, yeah. How many times do we forget the injury and focus on the fact that, why were you talking on your phone?
It was your fault.
Because the issue at that time
or
is
even
this
we're
person
doing
is
paparazzi.
hot. Yes. So I think we need to be more human. We need to be less judgmental.
All right, talking about being human, I need to be human with our viewers. A lot of them are writing in, so many of them, before we begin to forget them. This person says his name is Sam, and he didn't write where he's writing from. But I think this message is too lengthy. Try to make your message very short, but I'll try. The speaker said he is born again, but supports ladies to go around nude. Let us be honest with ourselves. Dressing half nude is bad. Let parents train their children on a proper way to dress. And he also says let parents make their children their friends for them to be free to relate with them. I'm talking about, okay, I think this is actually...
Well, I think, Sam, you got something wrong, which is I never supported ladies who dress naked all about. I made reference to Lesotho, where ladies completely go half naked and walk about the street without being molested or being harassed by someone. And I said that we cannot continue to use our cultural or religious biases as a basis with which to judge other people's lives. So first thing is to take care of our mental state. Now, I agreed, if I place sugar on the table, ants will come and gather it. There's no denying the fact. But if I don't want ants to come around my sugar, I need to do the right thing, isn't it? Why should you allow yourself to be carried away? Why do you want to sexualize people because of the way they get dressed or because of the time they visited? That should stop. She says something here which one I like, the fact that we need to tell people to learn to respect boundaries, which is what is not there. Culturally, we allow certain things to continue, thinking that the woman is an object with which you can actually utilize to do things.
That's
now,
right.
that has transcended beyond the normal. When a man is raped, it's not seen as rape.
That's
It's often
right.
said he enjoyed it because he's a man. Men go through a lot of things that they can't even speak about
Are you
because
talking
society.
about men or boys? Can you rape a full-blown man?
Of course, men do.
can drug it,
Some
can
people
drug
do it in the offices. Some people do. Bosses that are women bosses do same thing to their male
Subordinates.
subordinates. You know, you must get down before you get access to some kind of benefit. These things happen, but because the society is so skewed in such a way to make the man to think like he cannot complain, like cannot cry in the public, it keeps quiet. So we need to change all of those reorientation. Now, there are people, even girls, who like to be, who like violence. I pulled out of a relationship at my younger age because she wanted me to beat her to prove my love. It's crazy. And when I didn't do that, she slapped me. And that was the end of the relationship because that provocation can lead to me doing certain things to prove that I'm a man, isn't it? But my understanding, denies me from taking such kind of action. So I pulled out of the relationship because of that. So psychologically, we have problems. We need to begin to teach our kids, or early, she said I should not use the word profiling, but I think when we begin to have personality clarity tests, we'll get to know who we are and know how to manage our boundaries. My kids at 11 and 12, I've already done a personality clarity test for them because I needed to know how to manage them. I also need them to understand a bit of their personality so that they know how to manage themselves. If we expose ourselves to some kind of truth, it will help the society to heal so fast. But I mean, is it possible for everyone to do it? No. But with today's phone, it's easy for you to download an app to do that. Good and Co can do that, and then, we can do these things. Those are the ways we can help ourselves. So, Sam, don't get it wrong, please.
Okay, Sam has just been cleared. But when he mentioned personality test, I got me thinking. Now, as a parent, I know you are one. I am one. All of us are one. So I was wondering, are there things you can see in your child as he's growing up, be it the he or the she, that could, give me a telltale sign of the fact that this person could be a rapist in time to come?
Okay, no, not necessarily, because when I picked the fact that he said he had done the personality clearance test. Usually personality does not form till the age of about 18, 21.
18, 21?
Yeah, so that's when our true personality forms. But you
So
can see the
a
traits.
child of maybe 6, a child of 10?
You can't say this is his personality.
Okay,
can
who
see
is
the
always maybe quiet?
Good. So that's understanding.
That's what I'm asking.
Okay,
Are there
great.
things I can
So-
see in a child? I say, hey, this child is going to be
I'm
a
worried
womanizer.
about. So you can't say for sure. You can just say he has the tendency of.
Beautiful.
So for instance, you see a child, because when we see children, so one of the things we do in the clinic setting is you give them a toy, and you see how they relate with the toy. So if I give this child a toy and all I'm seeing is him trying to use his toy knife to maybe pluck out the eyes of the toy, or trying to say, oh, okay, I want to slash the tummy. I was watching a video today and it was a case of, oh, we have a train going this way. That's a father and a little boy. And then he says, we have 4 people on this rail track, and then we have 1 person on this rail track. Which way should we let the train go? And the little boy just picked the 1 person that is on the left rail track and placed it where the 4 people were and just ran the train over them.
Oh,
So you want to find out, why did you do that? Do you understand? So you need to understand. It might just be some built-in anger. It might just be a case of, oh, but I always see Uncle XYZ or Auntie XYZ hitting
people.
So I think people should be killed, for instance. So you now want to, channel their thoughts from that early age because you don't want them to grow up with that. So you can see traits. You can see the ones that have social, inhibition, they're just withdrawn, and you want to, you want to nurture them the way you are. But there are some, depending on the conditions. An autistic child, there's so much you can do. You can just try to improve, those skills. So that you can just see the traits in children, but you can't see this one has. And again, in personality development, you have different stages. You have the oral stage, you have the phallic stage. Do you understand? So usually people that are preoccupied by sex and all are stuck in what we call the phallic stage. So they're the ones that masturbate, they're the ones, but they are normal stages of development that we all went through, right? Those that stuck in the oral stage have their characteristics, but the phallic stage, that's the phallus of the penis. So they get stuck there. So those are the ones that are preoccupied by things, that's by sexual desires.
And these are the ones that may show such tendencies,
and then couple is multifactorial, coupled with other childhood experiences. But very key is childhood experiences. Adverse childhood experiences are related to a lot of mental health.
So once children are not moving on, parents should raise alarm.
Yeah.
Now, still picking on that, if my daughter or my son comes in, what do I see that begins to get me suspicious? We've seen children raped, and upon inquiry, you find out that it's not the first time. That uncle has been doing it over time, and the child comes home, and nobody gets to know. As a parent, how do I begin to relate with my child? What do I look out for to know, okay, somebody has been messing around with my daughter, my son's personal space?
Yes, personal space. So it always has to start from beginning. So the level of bonding with the child. So imagine always telling your children, Mommy and Daddy always need to know everything. No one should ever tell you to keep a secret for them. So they grow up with that. They will remind you. Because what we teach these children, they end up being our police.
Definitely.
So if you tell a child, for instance, that the green light at a traffic light means stop. God bless you, today you run a red light. They will tell you, Mom, but that light was red, right? So we also need to be careful. What we teach them, then we shouldn't do it, because they will learn to grow that it's okay to do that. So if I tell my child that, see, no one should ever tell you to keep a secret for them, then I should be mindful that they don't ask me something and I say it's a secret. As much as possible. I know the things that normally I will even let them know, adult, children issues. But when they ask me something, I should be, because we have to do what we call intentional parenting. So if a child says, but Mom, what was that? Is that a secret? No, there's never a secret between you and Mommy. So I will tell you what it is. And remember, no one should tell you to keep a secret for them. That's in addition to teaching them the parts that are private.
Talking about these parts that are private, I've heard that you tell the girl child, this is your private parts. You should use the real name, right?
Yeah, well, that's a mistake we do as parents in
because
thinking
we use a pet name, and then the perpetrator.
We use pet name or animated inferences because of either religious or cultural biases, which in totality is actually very wrong. So there's something you were saying, and this thought came to my mind. There's what we call the sexual grooming. As parents, we expose our private parts to our kids, thinking they are little kids. The child's brain is the same size with an adult brain. The only thing is a comprehension period that they don't comprehend as much as we comprehend, but those things get stuck. There are kids who are very imaginative inclined. They see things and it doesn't just leave them. They visualize and all of those things. My daughter's like that, so I'm very careful with the things I do. So we need to begin to avoid sexual grooming because, see, when we change before them, expose some kind of adult content to these kids, it also in some ways kind of secrete those hormones in them, so they get those things start maturing before time. When it is no child as little as it is, a little boy, if you fondle with the penis of the little boy, there's going to be erection. Just a toddler. Why so? It wasn't like he knows that there's an erection, but because the body system functions in that direction. So if he's exposed to raw nude frequently, there's a way that his body begins to attune to such kind of desires and needs. So we need to be careful on how we sexually groom our kids and ensure that they don't get to see, because kids are like sponges, right?
They absorb everything.
They absorb. kids don't always do what we say.
They do
what they see.
What we see, yes.
Right? So we need to continue consciously work towards it. Now, we have to continually do not allow our religious biases to affect our humanness. In how we relate, in what the things we do, and in the environment. Not because I'm a Christian, then I look at someone who is dressed in a hijab to think that is not well dressed. No. Or not because I'm a Muslim and I look at another person to be like, this person is like this. No. That's your own space. Limit yourself to your own thinking and your understanding and your limitation. Don't bring that into my own space.
Okay, let's take some more mails. Hey, good morning. This is from God Bless Gomo. I totally concur with everything you're saying, but I also think that a parent should ensure that their girl child dress well, especially when they go outside. Thank you, Gomo, for that. And somebody says, let's call a spade a spade. A girl that dresses half naked and walk on the street, especially at night, anything can happen. Well, I don't know why the girl is going to at night. Maybe. Please, my own part of the contribution is to all our females to learn how to dress well. It's still issue of dressing. Thank you very much. We're learning. I like this program. Whomsoever that raped and said he was attracted by the dress appearance, that person is an animal. Wow. This is because even dogs seek consent before having sex. I don't know how dogs...
Yeah, they do. I have two dogs, and the male dog don't just come around and want to just do it. He comes and wants to come with force, and she said no. So he has to do something. Even the cock and the hen. You see the cockerel drop some food around for the hen to come pick before you be able to get access.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, so because if you watch animals, you can see some trait. So if dogs don't do that by force, then why would they do that?
Okay, that's good. So today I've just learned that dogs actually follow dogs out.
The only thing is that you see these things happen, you think they don't have, there's consent.
Yes.
The male dog will ask the female out.
Okay.
Do some nice things, provide food, play around. Then you accept she's in a heat period and she wanted it there, she can actually allow him to come in without necessary struggles. Okay,
what is the punishment for a girl or woman who falsely accused a man of rape? What of a woman that scams a man and extorts money from him and all that? This coming from Lemon Miracle. Lemon, I know a whole lot of that has been going on. I was raped, I wasn't raped. The basic thing is the rule of law will always prevail. If it's not, before rape case, it's one of the most difficult cases to actually get to. But then, if all evidence, it's proven, and the girl is lying, then the girl will have to pay the man.
That's right.
That's how it is. Okay.
It's too serious an issue to.
It's too serious.
To lie with.
Yes. Cordial working relationship between the executive and legislature should not be mistaken for rubber stamp by anyone. Honorable Engineer Stephen. Okay. Kim from Plateau. Thank you very much. And we'll continue with more messages. This topic is very interesting. Thank you. You didn't write your name. And I said, I know a lady who is a hustle to any man that comes her way because someone he trusts, she trusted raped her. In fact, she said she is not going to marry for that reason, though she did not report the incident to she didn't. Okay, this is Ezekiel from Abuja. Thank you very much. There are a whole lot of them. We'll still take more, as much as we can, if we still have time. Our time is quite winding up. On a parting note, I need you to speak on parents, quite briefly. A lot of us will take our bath and come out stark naked in front of our male child, in front of our female children. We call it, bonding. Is that part of bonding? Does it in any way? Is it right?
No. Because wherever, just like he mentioned, we need to understand that there are behaviors and actions that are appropriate for various ages. The same way I want to give my 2-year-old primary 6 curriculum in school. Why should I teach him things about life that are way beyond his age? What am I trying to tell him?
Okay, so in other words, it's wrong for a mother to come out stark naked in front of a 4-year-old boy.
Yes, what are you trying to achieve?
Even if it's a 2-year-old.
Even if it's a 2-year, right?
Kids.
Because you're teaching that child that it's okay for you to be in that position with an adult. because he trusts you completely, because you're teaching this child what human beings are like. Right. So imagine if later in life you're doing the sex education and you're telling him, no one should tell you to XYZ, and he tells you, but mom, there's no big deal about this. Is that the time you want to tell him, but I'm your mom? So why are you dressing later?
Different.
Why don't you go out this way? You know. But mom, you're telling me that these things are private. No one should see them. Where am I seeing them?
All right.
So we just need to be conscious of what we expose this children.
All right, you were going to add something?
Yeah, when you said, is it right, the ignorance of our parents expose us to early nudity of our parents because they just felt we were little kids. But some of those don't leave us. We desire to want to see them in other people. It was easy for me to look at, oh, this is it. So when we consciously, like I kept repeating myself in this manner, deny our kids from certain kind of knowledge that they should have at certain ages, we help them to grow better. I've come to understand that the little child we think is a little child is not a little child. Mm-hmm. Because everything they see, the human mind is ageless. The human mind is ageless. The brain of a child is ageless. Our hormone system develop at certain stages of life. If you pluck a mango that is not ripe, have a bite of it, keep it somewhere, after a while it will get ripened. But that initial bite will show some kind of rottenness, right?
Yes.
The same thing we do with kids. When we expose them to certain kind of things, the hormone in our system, the brain process it and begin to activate those hormones to function earlier than the time they're supposed to function.
All right. Thank you.
And that is a danger because that child begins to desire the need to want to satisfy that yearning. That's what happens. Anybody within the environment becomes
the object of use. Thank you so much, Kevin Fine, for coming. As always, you come in, fully loaded, and today you just blew my mind. I didn't know you were raped, and I'm glad you actually came out of it.
Don't repeat this again. Don't use my exposure as a shame. The truth must be told, so that more people get to understand these things are happening. And the more you embrace me, because when a rape victim comes up, the first thing we do is empathy.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Don't disbelieve the story.
No.
When we show empathy to help to save their lives.
Yes. Thank you. I know that with your story, a lot of people are going to learn. And thank you, Doctor, for coming. I wish we had all the time. Thank you especially for letting me take away your time when you should be sleeping. And that lovely note, we say goodbye. But don't forget, the child remains the most important thing for us tomorrow because that child becomes an adult. It's important we pay attention to what that child gets fed with, not just the physical food, what the child gets fed with in the brain. It's important if we must have a safe and balanced tomorrow. That's what I'll say. Remember that you are human, I am human, and we have different personalities. Please respect that. I'll see you again next time. Bye.